All right. That is Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, along with Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, giving an update on the ongoing war with Iran. Honestly, Pete Hegseth with a rather childish litany of accomplishments about a very serious issue, war with Iran. Talking about how American forces would deliver death and destruction all day long to Iran. He got into some of the details, but again, a lot of rhetoric about death and destruction and power, and no real reasoning on what the immediate threat was. He was actually asked about intelligence by Lindell TV. And he described the intelligence leading up to the war, to the first strikes, as Iran had the intentions eventually to do bad things. To be clear, eventual is not immediate. So there was no answers on what the immediate threat was, which is what a lot of people want to know. Like, what was it that triggered this without going to Congress? We then got a much more detailed and serious assessment of the situation from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, who started off where most would, which is expressing gratitude and grief over the fallen service members who have died so far, 4 days and 103 hours into this campaign. He did list off the accomplishments so far, saying that they have eliminated Iran's ballistic missile systems. They're in the process of assuring Iran cannot rebuild its combat power as this campaign continues, and it will continue as they progress deeper into Iran. They've destroyed much of Iran's Navy and Air Force. And he talked a lot about also how the Gulf states, United Arab Emirates and Qatar, have been helping push back against Iran's retaliation, and touched on the fact that Americans are trying to get out of the region, and they're trying to help, but not much more on that. Joining us now, MS Now senior national security reporter David Rohde, who's been watching this as well. David, what questions were you left with on this, and any indications of where this goes next from what we heard?
I had the same questions about no real explanation about why this had to happen now, as you. He brought up something that we've actually done some reporting on. It's basically claims that Iran was actively pursuing a nuclear weapon, and this is something Steve Witkoff talked about in a Fox News interview a couple nights ago. And we contacted people with knowledge of the negotiations. Witkoff claimed that the Iranians bragged that they had enough enriched uranium for 11 nuclear bombs. It was a Sean Hannity interview. People who were present during the negotiations said that never happened, that the Iranians never made that statement. And in fact, they said we have enriched uranium because we started enriching uranium again after President Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal that President Obama negotiated. So it's a continuation of the administration struggling to explain why they had to do this now. And in terms of the objectives, I was struck like you. It's just very unusual. We talked about exquisite, standoff munitions. At one point, he compared it to a football game. And at the end, he was sort of talking about, pushing the throttle up. Waging war is one of the most serious things the American government can do. 6 Americans have lost their lives already. And so he seems enamored with the ability of air power alone and these bombs to break the will of Iranian forces. And maybe they will. And this is a terrible regime, and maybe they will be toppled. But I'm still concerned about the strategy the administration has here, and I still think that the objective is unclear.
All right, let's go live to Israel now. And MS Now international reporter Ines de la Cuetara. Ines, you heard the defense secretary say Iran's missile attacks have decreased since the start of the war. Is that the sense on the ground there?
Yeah, Mika, they said that Iran's ballistic missile capabilities are now down 86%, that they've established localized air superiority. But here in Israel, sirens have been continuing to go off throughout the day. Today, we had at least 3 sirens going off. At one point, there was incoming from both Iran and Hezbollah at the same time. No casualties reported there. But the Israelis also striking Iran today and saying that they're going to continue taking out any successor to Iran's supreme leader. This just after they took out the council that was set to elect Iran's supreme leader just yesterday. The death toll continuing to go up across the region. In Iran, we know of over 1,000 people who have now been killed. That's according to Iranian state media. And like you guys mentioned, the U.S. military also identifying some of these service members, American service members who have been killed. They are Captain Cody A. Korg, Sergeant First Class Noah Tegens, Sergeant First Class Nicole Amor, Sergeant Declan Cody. U.S. military installations obviously have been targeted by Iran, but Iran also broadening its attacks and targeting across the region energy facilities, hotels, residential buildings, an airport, and of course, U.S. embassies as well, targeted in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Beirut. We know a U.S. consulate in Dubai was struck by a drone as well. And so that is making it obviously much more complicated for Americans to leave the region. The State Department urging Americans to leave the region. But here in Israel, the embassy telling Americans that they are essentially on their own, that the embassy cannot assist them with evacuations. Americans are being told to contact the Israeli Ministry of Tourism to try to get onto shuttles that are going to be operated to, via land border crossings. Just anecdotally, that's how we got into Israel. We had to go via land border crossing. So Americans in Israel kind of, left to figure it out on their own. But I will say the State Department did say it will be chartering flights to evacuate Americans from Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and the UAE.
And the Trump administration getting some criticism for the slow effort to get those Americans out, not evacuate some of these places. We know the consulate in Dubai, the U.S. consulate in Dubai, was struck by an Iranian drone yesterday. David Rohde, back to you. Secretary of Defense Hegseth did talk about how an American submarine sank an Iranian warship with a torpedo in international waters. We also had reports earlier this morning about an Israeli fighter jet shooting down a member of the Iranian opposition. And then this news here that Turkey is saying that NATO air defenses shot down a Iranian ballistic missile that was heading towards Turkey, a NATO country, a market escalation. So there's certainly, this is, despite the confidence expressed there at the podium we just heard, this war seems to only be widening.
It does, and what's going on in the Gulf is the most critical thing, as we see with oil prices and the stock market. So the President Trump has talked about having American warships, escort tankers. That'll help, but what we're seeing is the success of drones and sort of asymmetric warfare here. It was a drone that got through that killed those American service members. Drones could be, put on target to try to hit oil tankers, and they're hard to knock out all of them. They do get through. So I agree. I don't think this is over. I think they are depleting a lot of their weapons, but I think they're finding ways to get missiles through. That's the Turkey example that you mentioned is startling. It was shot down. It's in a way that Iran has now taken on NATO. They could as an alliance fight back. I don't think that'll happen at this point because the Europeans don't support this operation, but this is continuing apace. It's not slowing down.
All right, MS Now senior national security reporter David Rohde, thank you so much. And MS Now international reporter Ines de la Cuetara live from Israel, thank you as well.